Welcome to another edition of Under the Bus, and I'm not sure we've got enough buses for this show. This is going to be a great next 30 minutes or so. I'm Bob Stevens, formerly of ESPN, introducing Curry Kirkpatrick, formerly Sports Illustrated, Hall of Fame writer, Rich Basirico, Hall of Fame basketball coach, who gives us that coaching perspective for all the coaches that we're going to throw under the bus this week. Let's begin.
I like it.
Let's begin in the NFL, where we got a
America,
of people to throw under.
We got America's team.
Let's
First of all, going under America's
Go
bus.
for it.
The Cowboys just weren't ready to play. You know, they play the worst team in the league, probably in Arizona, and they just showed up flat. And everybody's going to blame it on Dak Prescott, who obviously, threw the interception, with 2 minutes to go. And it's the old Zach. He led the league in interceptions last year, 15, I think, and he didn't even play 5 games. This looked like a Cowboys playoff game where they always show up flat. I mean, every team in the league lays an egg during the season, but I mean, this was an omelet that Dallas laid. And I just want to ask Rich, when you have a team, you were a coach. When you have a team that's flat, that just comes out not ready, isn't it the coach's fault? You were trying to motivate
The
them.
preparation happens during the week, right? Games are won in practice. So obviously they didn't have a good week of practice. And I think because they thought they were playing Arizona, they've been playing so well, and Arizona was, predicted to be the worst team in the league. So they didn't come to play. And his job is to get these guys ready to play. So when they came out flat, like you mentioned, then at halftime he should have been all over them. Should have been all over them. And fire them up to come out and play to the best of their ability, which they did not.
So does that make the Giants coach from the week before a genius because they were getting
Flat.
killed and then he came out and won?
Yeah, well, I don't know what he said at halftime, but obviously they made adjustments
Against Arizona.
Right, they made adjustments, and they players were ready to come out. In the NFL, you don't really have to motivate a lot. I mean, these guys
shouldn't have to.
They're professionals. They're getting paid good money to come out and play. But sometimes you got to kick butt. You got to go in there and say this is unacceptable. We got to come to play. I think they thought that it was just going to turn, like with the Giants. It just turned. Not that I thought the Giants thought that was going to happen, but it did. I think Dallas just said, we're the Dallas Cowboys.
And they have the best defensive player in the league, Micah Parsons. You would think at halftime, a guy like that, if he's a true leader, isn't he going to fire up the team and come out?
You would think so.
But he was like invisible in the game. I mean, he should have taken over the game.
Should have, but they did a good job.
But
as opposed to that, we've got the Dolphins-Broncos game, where one coach obviously did a pretty darn good job. We're not throwing the Dolphins coach under the bus because they scored 70.
70 points,
right.
10 touchdowns, 5 each, 5 running, 5 passing, never been done before.
Sean Payton, I think, should give his check back, shouldn't he, for this week?
Dolphins had 726 yards. Of offense.
Well,
they could have had more. They could have set the record.
Doesn't it come around? He's the one that was blasting before the season started about how poorly Hackett did last year as a head coach at Denver.
Worst coaching job in history.
Right. Well, what do you think about him?
Yeah. Hackett didn't have 70 scored on him.
No.
Right?
Payton. Talking about players not being ready to play, and they gave up on him. I mean, when the game got out of hand,
they quit. They quit.
So week 5, NFL, Jets, Broncos. We thought it was going to be this great Payton against the team against Hackett.
That's right.
Well, now it's going to be the two of them, and neither one of them is any good.
It's going to end up in a tie.
I love Sean Payton after the game. He said he was embarrassed, humiliated.
Should be.
And a reporter starts to ask him a question about, he went into all the statistics of how the awful records they've been broken. And Payton goes, what's the question? He really, he was about to blow up, which, he kept saying, the guy kept giving him his quotes, and what's the question? What's the question? I got a question. Why didn't Miami score 80 on him? I mean, they could have gotten 80 on him.
They could have.
I mean,
But McDaniels, the coach at Miami, used to be a Broncos ball boy, and he was almost embarrassed that we were killing him like this and took a knee.
Well, and Tua said after the game, we're not trying to humiliate teams, even though it looks that way, which it did.
So are we going to be throwing Tua under the bus next week? Because they got to go play Buffalo in Buffalo. That's the beauty of the NFL is, for some reason, the schedule, as I mentioned with the Broncos and Jets, comes back to haunt you later on, and now they got to go to Buffalo. I think I'd take the over.
I just lived when Miami is 70 with 8 minutes left. I mean, there are 8 minutes left in the game, and of course they got in field goal range, and the fans are shouting, "Go for three! Go for three! Go for three!" The record is 73, and you remember. In the 1940s, the Bears beat.
He was there in 1940.
The Bears beat Washington in the championship game 73-0. Yeah. And I read about this game. I remember Sammy Ball was the Washington quarterback. He threw a touchdown pass early in the game, and the guy dropped it. Receiver dropped it. And they asked Ball, they get beat 73-0. They asked Ball after the game, "What about the pass? Would that have changed the game?" Sammy said, "Yeah, it would have been 73-7."
We got other coaches, though, in the NFL to throw under the bus besides Sean Payton, who's certainly got it coming. And yet, the Broncos get to play the Bears. Again, the schedule comes back to make it interesting. The Bears are just
terrible,
as bad as the Broncos. Boy, you throw the bus under the bus. Anybody who's got a ticket to that game? You could find a better way to spend your Sunday afternoon.
Well, you've got a couple other guys. I got a guy, Brandon Staley, the Chargers coach. Yeah. I mean, he goes for it on 4th down in his own his own 24, under 2 minutes to go, and they blow it. And then, of course, they give the game to Cousins, who's going to win the game. But he's Kirk Cousins, so he's running around crazy. Uses up 25 seconds. He says he can't hear the call, and he makes his own call and throws an interception in the zone. And Minnesota wins the game and beats the Chargers. I think it saves
Chargers
won. I mean, it saves Staley's job because the Chargers won.
I don't think it saved his job.
Oh, man.
I don't think his job, he was going to lose his job that week.
They're sick of this guy.
It's another one you put a check mark in the bad column.
San Diego's sick of this guy. I'm telling you right now.
And they get
it's not San Diego and Los Angeles. Right. I keep calling them San Diego Chargers.
Well, you should.
Do you keep that? I think
back
they should
in the old Oakland, San Diego days. Yeah. And that's this week's game. Is the Raiders and Chargers.
Yeah.
And now it's Vegas and L.A. But
I still think I'm in San Diego. I think Lance Allworth's still playing for him or something.
They got guys who are about like Lance Allworth. They got guys breaking Lance Allworth's records.
Bambi.
Yeah.
One of the great names, Bambi.
He
Bambi.
was just terrific.
Yeah. Speaking of.
One other coach to throw under
Josh
the bus.
McDaniels from the Raiders.
Yeah.
They're, they were down 23-15, so that's eight points. 2:25 to go in the game.
Inside the 30.
Right, and he kicks a field goal to cut it to 5. What's the purpose? What's the purpose of that? You got to score again. If you go for it and you miss it, you don't score the touchdown, you've run out of downs. Yes, you got to come back and score again. But to kick a field goal then, I don't get it from 8 to 5. Go for it, get the touchdown, go to 2-point conversion.
He's the Raiders.
Well, of course he's Raiders.
Yeah,
he's he's Belichick's, Belichick's boy.
So these two guys are going to be coaching against each other, the Chargers and the Raiders this week.
Talk about a ticket. Talk about a ticket nobody wants to see.
Chargers,
but the Chargers have the great quarterback Justin Herbert, and Staley is supposed to be a defensive genius, and their defense is terrible. The Chargers' defense.
All right, they are. A couple of good games
this
week.
But I want to
get to
the real stuff. The real stuff.
Story.
Kansas City.
The biggest story.
Kansas City.
Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce.
And here's what I'm going to throw on the bus. I'm going to throw the Fox cameras under the bus because they didn't show Taylor Swift nearly enough. Yeah. Nearly enough. They should have followed her everywhere. And of course, TikTok. I think it was a TikTok. Finally got at the end of the game. Finally, the first shot of Tay, as we Swifties call her, Tay, with Kelce walking out of the thing. And Kelce's outfit was great. It was like a white denim pants, jeans, and white denim jacket with blue paint spots. Okay. And it was some kind of tribute to Taylor Swift's song.
I could see you
I liked this outfit, actually. I know you did. And did you know? And they were kind of cozy walking out. Actually, they weren't holding hands, but it was close. Close.
But they really haven't dated that much, right? I mean, it's still pretty new.
I think he just invited her to the game, and she said, "Sure, I'll come."
Yeah.
Well, this thing has jumped.
You invite her to a prep game.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to try that.
She's got the month off, right?
She's got the entire month of October.
So
as we Swifties know, her next appearance is in Buenos Aires in November, and I think you said Kelce has a
Kelsey hasn't. That's the
A
bye
weekend
Chiefs
off.
bye week. They have one during her tour.
I guarantee you he's in Argentina.
Okay.
Going
She'll
after
set a
Turk.
plane for him.
Not to mention, next week, they play in New York. You don't think Tay is going to show up in New York? Come on.
You would
It's a
think.
great romance.
What has she done for Kelsey's
I'm going to
jersey
ask
sales?
you, 400% jersey sales up. And this story has jumped, not just jumped sports, the weekend, jumped sport. A political gal the other day, yesterday on Dateline White House, I think they call
Okay.
it.
Yep.
And she was talking about how great this was because they were great humanitarians, and they were, Taylor Swift and Jason Kelsey, and she was, doing, the haters are going to hate, which is, she was going, shake it off, shake it off. All these taste songs, everybody's doing their song.
So are we
her song.
haters who are going to hate this week? Is that what we're doing here?
No.
Was that just 10
Well,
minutes?
I want to
of
ask you
hate?
this.
Yeah.
What does this do to the Chiefs season? Is this good for the Chiefs or bad for the Chiefs?
Well, I think it's great for
Because-
the Chiefs. Takes all of the pressure
Off
In
Mahomes.
fact, the next State Farm commercial
Well, she'll be in it.
is going to be Mahomes, and the coach, and the State Farm guy, and Taylor.
Well, but even
And they're
last
going to sell a lot of insurance.
even last week though, they asked Mahomes after the game, and Taylor Swift's up there. Is there a little pressure? And he admitted, I got some pressure on me. I knew Tay was in the house. I got to throw a touchdown to Kelsey. Look, I got to go.
What kind of pressure is there
Well,
on
let
Mahomes
me-
to throw a touchdown pass to Kelsey? That's
does
part of what
every
they
week.
do.
He does
Yeah,
it every
it's
week.
what they do.
Well, this history of celebrity sports
Yes.
guys, history of the romance is
Right.
a little mixed. Remember
You have done a lot of research and done a lot of writing.
Tony Parker, San Antonio.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Eva Longoria. Eva Longoria went on the plane with the Spurs. She was on the plane, and they
I'm sure they
eventually.
didn't mind, yeah.
Well, and Spurs won the championship. Tony Parker was MVP that year. They beat LeBron in the finals, and Longoria's
Perfect.
hanging around,
Yeah.
and they eventually got married, but then it didn't work out. So, I don't know. What about Tony Romo and the great Jessica Simpson? Remember her?
Yeah.
And Tony and Jessica were a romance.
Yeah.
They went to Cabo before the playoffs, got beat by the Jets the next week. Everybody blamed
Jessica. They blame Jessica.
blamed Jessica. And
her fault.
Jessica at the time was a bigger name than Tony Romo,
Sure.
if you can imagine that.
Andre Agassi
And Steffi.
and Steffi. That
Well,
was
they were
within the
about
sport.
finished. They were about finished playing.
Okay.
But we got and then we got, of course, Russell Wilson and Ciara.
And Ciara.
And that worked
She's
out.
still
They
more
got married,
popular,
and they're still married. They're all over commercials. They have babies now.
Yeah.
But Russell Wilson's career is now in the tank. So what do we think about that?
He's in the
What do we
tank,
think
for
about
sure.
that? I don't know.
She'll support him.
Look, this is the biggest celebrity sports guy
Yeah.
romance since Tom Brady and Giselle. Okay,
Sure.
but I will point out, I will submit that Taylor Swift is bigger than Giselle Bundchen
Oh,
around the world.
no
I mean, it's a
question.
huge. She's
No
the biggest
question.
entertainer in the world. And I think, if they have this romance and get married, how about this?
That's
If
not
they
gonna
get
happen.
married, well, what if it does happen?
Because
I'm going there.
Taylor needs a good song.
She's going to write a song.
She's going to write the
Your
song about the breakup.
Right.
And the
Mama
breakup.
Kelsey's going to be she's going to be in the middle of it.
And then what if? And then Jason will be a villain among every woman in America, if they break out. I mean Travis, not Jason's a brother. I get him mixed up. But if they do get married, it'll be the biggest celebrity sports since Joe DiMaggio and Marilyn Monroe. I mean, I'm going back in
They
time,
might be right on
but
that.
but
If
you know,
they
but
don't
you
get
know,
married, but that's not gonna
well, but if they do, here I want to tell you a story. I remember the story about no,
got a lot
and
of
this is
stories.
why it probably won't work.
Yeah.
I mean, they're in different worlds, and they don't know. I don't think they know how big the other person is in that world.
Right.
There's a great story about Marilyn Monroe married to Joe DiMaggio, and Marilyn goes on one of the foreign tours, goes with Bob Hope, and entertains the troops, and she comes home and she says, Joe, I was out on the stage with 50,000 people screaming my name and screaming for me. She said, Joe, you can't imagine what it was like. And Joe DiMaggio looks at her and said, Marilyn, yes, I can. I mean, they had no idea who the either one was, and so it may not work.
Okay.
It may not work with
Are we
Jason.
hearing it here first?
Yeah, go on record.
I'm gonna
Curry
give him. I'm gonna
Kirkpatrick
give him a
says it's
few
not
months.
gonna work.
I'm gonna give him a few months. I'm
Over
gonna
under?
give Jason in Argentina. I'll give him 3 months.
Okay.
End of the season.
All right.
And put that in writing, Bob.
We got more people to throw under the bus, more coaches to throw under the bus from the college game. When we come back on Under the Bus. Welcome back to the Under the Bus. Now, the college edition. We have begun each of about our last 4 shows with Dion. Did
Well,
we
let's
throw
begin
Dion
again.
under the bus
Oh,
yet?
We got to.
Okay.
He
Throw
gets his
him.
ass kicked. He gets his ass brutally kicked by.
Although I give him
by-
all the credit in the world for standing up afterwards and said,
See, his
that's
team
exactly
wasn't
what happened.
prepared.
Well, he had to do that, but I think he got out Dion. I mean, Dan Lanning, I'm going to call him Danion.
Yeah.
He out Dion because everybody saw his pregame speech in the locker room. Right? No, this is Cinderella story's over, boys, men. Cinderella story over. We're playing this not in Los Angeles, in Hollywood. We're playing it on grass. They're playing for clicks. We're playing for wins.
Yeah.
I mean, he was amazing in the pregame.
And the best part of that, of course, the reason it worked is because he let the
He let the
ESPN
cameras
camera
in. Of course, let the cameras in.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a story to tell with that. I work in Oklahoma, where high school football is huge. We would never have asked to be in a locker room before a game to hear the coach talk. I moved to Ohio, where football is also huge, but it's a different kind of mindset. And we were invited in by
All the time?
coaches all the time.
Really?
Go sit in the corner with the
High
camera. Well, because they wanted the video at the end to recruit with, especially the private schools.
But what if they got their ass kicked? Then they're showing the
Well,
thing
but
after
then,
game.
But then they've got the video and they don't use it to recruit kids. But you saw some of the great Chuck Kyle, the coach at St. Ignatius in Cleveland, who just recently retired, hugely successful. Loved having us in the locker room beforehand because he was dynamic. The guy
Yeah.
taught Shakespearean English as a teacher.
Wow.
But he was the football coach and was hugely successful.
Sounds like you. You teach Shakespeare, right? When you prep.
A little bit of it,
Yeah.
mostly Chinese.
Very low key, very mild mannered for the most part. But in that locker room, he was amazing, and he wanted the tape of that because this is something
Yeah.
that's not me, so I can kind of use it to show the
Right,
fire and the
right.
excitement and all that of playing here. So. Anyway,
Well, this guy,
Lanning did a great job.
this guy Dan Lanning. I mean, nobody knew who he was really before this game, probably.
Right.
But he's an SEC guy.
Yes.
I mean, he was a grad assistant for Saban when they won the championship.
Yeah.
Then he was a defensive coordinator at Georgia when they won the championship.
Right.
So he's not intimidated by Deion Sanders. I mean, he's a guy. And you talk about
He also
making
had
it.
players.
Well, talk about making it personal.
Yeah.
He also said in the locker room before the game, look, we're rooted in substance, not flash. I mean, you talk about personal. Then the game comes, he's up 13-0, and he fake punts from his own 17 early in the game. He fake punt. Now that is what?
Having guts.
Well,
But here,
talk about disrespect.
well,
That's
I don't know,
disrespecting.
I don't know. Well, you know what?
Rich, he's fake punting from his 12.
Okay, but he knows he's coaching on the other team.
That's right.
Seriously.
But
he knows he's not a good X and O guy. He's not. Sanders is not a good X and O
Okay.
guy. So he knows who he's up against.
Well, and he while the cameras were on Dan Lanning, meanwhile, Deion's not having a great time out on the pregame because the Duck,
Right.
the Oregon Duck, is coming out there, whose name is Puddles, and
There you go, something
Puddles
right
is
there.
coming out there. He's dressed in a cowboy hat and the sunglasses, and he also has a clock that says prime time. And Puddles is crushing the clock. And meanwhile, an Oregon fan holds up a sign. Of course, Deion has two of his toes amputated.
Right.
Last kid's got a sign up that says, "My coach has 10 toes." So Deion didn't have a great pregame.
You talk about disrespect.
that's disrespect. For sure, that's disrespect.
The biggest people we got to throw under the bus, I mean, is Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame, though. I mean, to not know.
He had 10 players on.
For two, not
I
with
thought-
one play,
I
but
thought-
for two.
I thought you had to have brains to go to Notre Dame, or be at Notre Dame. I mean, he can't count. Marcus Freeman can't count, right?
Well, you know where he went to college?
Tell me.
At Ohio State.
Ohio State.
Yeah.
So he's got both teams.
But you know what he said? He said he said he knew, but he didn't want to it was too late to send somebody on the field. They get a penalty, and then they'd be closer to the goal line.
6
The
inches.
penalty
closer.
6 inches.
I get it.
Yeah,
and
but-
guess where
Again.
they ran? They ran right off tackle where nobody was there. So
Well, now it turns out after the game, you see him after the game, or the day after, he said, we're now going to have a signal or a sign to show for our people to come up if we see that there's only 10 men on the
Took him that
field.
long to
I
figure
mean,
that
why
one
doesn't he
out.
use an abacus?
How
Why
about
use
all
a
the
little kid-
assistants he
Use
has?
an abacus, Marcus. I mean, they can't count. It's unexcusable in a
That's
game like that.
Under the bus.
He gets a kid.
yeah, how many assistants does he have on the sideline?
Yeah.
None of them knew.
under the bus. So we've thrown Dion under the bus. We've thrown Marcus Freeman under the bus. You want to throw Dabo Swinney under the bus?
Dabo, I mean, it was awful. I mean, I'm a huge Clemson fan. My son went to Clemson, graduated from Clemson. I have good buddies who are Clemson fans. We got a game, Florida State ranked 4th in the country. We have them down.
Now now Clemson. You're we. You're
Yeah,
Clemson.
that's my boys. That's my boys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so they come down at the end of the game. Well, no, first of all, at the end of the game, score is tied, 12 seconds to go, and they basically run the ball, basically saying we're going to play for overtime. We're just going to play for overtime. But they ran the ball and got about, 10, 15 yards.
Shipley.
And they were still
one of the best backs in
right,
America.
but they were
Shipley.
still out of the field goal range. So they had another shot. This is what Dabo said after the game. Our offense was too disorganized to attempt a last-ditch effort. Well, whose fault is that?
Right.
Why is the offense disorganized? They're college kids. You're the head coach, and you got assistants all over the map. They should be organized. Go for one last pass down the field. Who knows what happens? But on top of that, in overtime, Florida State scores a touchdown, so obviously they got to score a touchdown in overtime. It's 3rd and 1. So what do you think we should do?
And it's 3rd and 1 because Will Shipley, their great running back, has taken the whole state, has taken whole Tallahassee down to the goal line, and he passes into the flat.
He passes in the flat,
Yeah.
loses a yard, and they have to pass again. Go with your strength. That's your strength. Take it to them.
Well-
If they stop you on 2 downs to stop you for 1 yard, you don't deserve to win to begin with. But for the first time, Clemson put a quarterback under center. I've been screaming at the TV for years. Why are we not putting the quarterback under center and get a first down?
Get the tush push.
How many times?
Get the tush push. What they're doing in the NFL all
day.
day.
Stop that.
They're doing that at the NFL.
Where's the analytics come up? If the analytics, if they use it, they should be
Well-
saying that's what we should be doing. That's when coaches overcoach. They think, I know what you're going to do, Bob. You're going to stack the line, so we're going to throw it down, and we're going to fool you by throwing it down. He fooled himself.
Yeah.
They should have never lost that game.
Well, but it would have been a great story
With the place
because
kicker.
Dabo got the place kicker out of graduate school.
Off the
And
couch.
apparently his son, Dabo's son, said, "Dad, his son is a player. He's the
Right,
holder."
correct.
He said, "Dad, we got a kicker who's still in graduate school." So Dabo calls him, but the kid was a backup
He was third
kicker,
string. He was third
third string kicker for 4 years. And there's a reason he's third string, right? But Dabo puts him in the game. He makes a field goal early. It's going to be a great
Extra
story.
point, extra
Then they bring him in. No, he made a field goal early.
Yeah, I
He
know,
didn't mean a third.
right? And he made extra
And then
points
they bring
too.
him in, and then they bring him in to kick the
a
winning
29-yard
field goal.
field
And what a story it would have been. What a story. But then the guy hooks it left, and Florida State wins the game, and now Dabo. And
So it's Dabo under the bus instead
well, he got the kid from
of the kicker driving the bus. Yeah.
the kid was in Charleston apparently playing golf or going to the beach or something, and he already had an apartment in New York. He had a job in New York, and Dabo calls him. Of course, I'm going to go. I'm going to go kick. His name is Whites, Jonathan Whites, and he would have been the all-time Clemson hero, right?
He would have.
You would have worshipped
Now
him.
he's a coach.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to throw under the bus from the college game
You're
the
terrible.
Pac-12 presidents
Oh,
for
God.
all
Here
the
we
stuff
go.
they've done.
Right.
Okay, right now, this week, as we sit, Pac-10 teams are 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th in the polls,
Pretty darn good.
all undefeated. Colorado's not one of them. They're 7, 8, 9, and 10. Washington State might be better than all of them. They're 16th. So they got a bunch of teams playing awfully good football.
Right.
They've got now the Heisman leader, the left-handed quarterback from Washington, Penix, is the leader in the little polling
Right.
they've done for
They
the
got
Heisman,
Nick's
ahead of the
Nick's-
Southern Cal guy who's got a Heisman in his back pocket.
Caleb
Nick's from
Williams, yeah.
Oregon.
Yeah.
And
And
they
the
got-
kid from Oregon
Right.
who put on a great show
Absolutely.
on national TV against Colorado. Southern Cal beats Colorado this week
Kills him.
in Boulder.
Easy, no game. It's
Well,
like
good,
Oregon.
take
It's
the
going to be
over
like
now,
Oregon.
'cause-
Yeah,
'cause
take the
Southern
Oregon.
Cal
But I got
plays
back.
They play
You
no
know,
offense.
I want to. If we had time, I want to go back to speaking of under the bus. How about the Ohio State coach? Even if he wins the game, Ryan Day.
Oh, okay. You want to?
He goes after, after the game, he
Lou
said, "I
Holtz.
hope Lou Holtz is. He said, I wonder where Lou Holtz is now. Nobody in America knew who Lou. I mean, Lou Holtz is 105 years old, former Notre Dame coach. He blasted Ryan Day earlier in the week. He said that's why Ohio State loses because they've been soft since Urban Meyer left. The despicable Urban Meyer. He didn't say despicable. That's my word. But he said since Ryan Day takes over, they've been soft. So Ryan Day goes crazy. I mean, before the game, he's talking to the interviewer, and he's saying, we've heard what everybody's saying. He didn't mention Holtz. He said, we've been hearing what everybody's saying for 48 hours. We're going to play the hardest we've ever played in our lives. I mean, he was steaming before the game. And then after the game, he calls out Holtz again. He says, where's Lou? I'll tell you where Lou Holtz was. He was asleep. I mean, come on.
Hopefully he wasn't sleeping under a bus. We're going to be back. We're going to talk a little Ryder Cup. I'm going to convince you to watch the Ryder Cup. I'm going to convince you to watch the Ryder Cup.
At 1 o'clock in the morning?
Live, 1 o'clock,
right,
tape delayed, whatever.
That's right.
Because it's really good stuff. We'll be back with that. Under the bus. This weekend, a golf event that is as close to the Olympics as you're going to get. As a fan, even if you are not a fan of golf,
Okay.
because we watch the Olympics. I mean, how many of us understand gymnastics? How many of us understand trekking? We understand us and them.
Right.
We're going to got us and them in golf this week, and even in a better situation because it's us and them, and we're on the road, and golf is the one sport.
And it's called the Ryder Cup.
Yes.
Excuse me. Okay.
I'll get to that.
It's,
Just tell them to be quiet.
we only got 20 minutes here.
We're almost done. Playing this in Rome, there are no Italians, unfortunately, on the
Which is a
European
shame,
Ryder
yeah.
Cup team, which would really be cool. But it's us and it's them. On the road, again, golf is the one sport where home field should make all the difference because it's not the same.
Right.
The Europeans
does-
get to set up the golf course however they want. They could put windmills on the greens if they wanted to.
And we haven't
Wouldn't that be fun?
won in
That would
Europe
be
for
fun.
Been to
in
some of these.
30 years.
Yeah,
We haven't
right.
won in 30 years that's how long it's been since we won in
Because
Europe.
it's really hard
And
to do.
yeah, and the golf course is Marco Simone. I mean,
Marco Simone,
sounds like a hitman for Tony Soprano.
And he was,
But
and
he played what?
just outside Rome.
Well, what do you think of our team? You know, there was some controversy about our choices.
A little bit of
Justin
controversy. Justin
Thomas couldn't beat me in the last 2 months.
That's true.
I mean, but now
He'll
he's
be
selected
fine.
because he's a great Ryder Cup
He is
player,
a great
right?
Ryder Cup
And that's
player.
why they chose him.
Shane Lowry is the same thing for the Europeans. Hasn't played very well this year, but we got to have him on the team.
Right.
Well-
and the Europeans left a guy off, Adrian Maronk from Poland, who won the European Tour event, played at that golf course this
wow.
year.
On
Now,
Marco.
wouldn't that be pretty good?
Wow, that
reason to why
experience.
ought
You
to
can't
keep it?
teach experience.
On Marco Simone.
On Marco.
But you know who the Ryder Cup is missing, and we've got to mention him, is Phil Mickelson. This is the first Ryder Cup. He hasn't been a player or coach since like the early 80s.
Won't miss him
And,
That's
and-
right. He doesn't deserve, he
I
doesn't
Well-
deserve to be
well-
on the
He's
team.
not a-
Well,
He doesn't
well,
deserve
no,
to be on the team.
but I'm just saying, Phil has always been a major player in the Ryder Cup. And Europe, no Sergio Garcia,
Right.
no the postman, my man Ian Poulter,
Ian Poulter.
no Westwood.
Right.
Those three guys have won like 60 points, I think, between them in the Ryder Cups, and none of them are on the team because not just because they're old, but because they're live. Let's talk about that. Live golfers.
Part of that is that.
Well, it's a big part.
The most recent Live winner, Bryson DeChambeau, who played great in the last Ryder Cup, and it was just the last Ryder Cup 2 years ago.
He took
in
down
21.
Garcia. He took down Garcia on
took
Sunday.
Down Garcia. He was 2-0-1 in his
Right.
matches. The people I want to actually take down in the Ryder Cup while we have a minute, I want to take down the whole organization of the thing, because we're going to see, yeah, that's hand
You're
gesture.
shooting an 8-iron.
He's
You're
talking-
shooting
he's
an
like an
8-iron.
Italian.
You're
He's
shooting
talking
my
like an
green.
Italian with
You're
his
shooting
hands.
on my.
He's
You're hitting
talking
on my
with his
green.
hands.
You're hitting an 8-iron on my green with your
Yeah.
hands.
We have
Good.
4 matches in each session, they call
This is getting
8
too.
of your
You
12
don't
players.
explain this. It's going to be too
them.
complicated.
8
Come
of
on.
your 12 players are playing. 4 of your 12 players are doing nothing. Now-
Eating pasta.
We should have, in the President's Cup, they have 10 players of the 12 play.
Okay.
At least the
Bob.
first day, each session. I mean, what we want to watch, we want to see golf. Don't we want to see more golf? Don't
Sure.
we want to see, and if there are more matches, there's more stuff to second guess.
Right.
Oh,
There's
you want more
people to
players?
throw
You
under
want
the
more?
bus.
You want more players on the team?
yeah.
More
no,
players
no,
on the
no.
team?
I want more matches.
or more matches.
Yeah, we got 8 guys playing.
So why don't we use
on
all
the
of
first
them?
day.
Why don't we use all of them?
Well, if you want to use the reason they cut it back to 8 is because the American players were better and the Europeans had no depth.
I want to get back to
10th, 11th, and 12th players were no good.
I want to get back to
the
Liv.
teams are even now.
I want to get back to Liv.
Okay.
Dustin Johnson,
Yeah.
5-0 2 years ago
Yeah.
in the Ryder Cup.
Yeah.
He's a great Ryder Cup
What's
player.
he done since then?
Well, okay, but what's Justin Thomas done
years.
since then?
But
Justin
in the
Thomas.
last 2 years,
I mean,
Justin Thomas has won a PGA. He won the PGA. He's still one of the better players. He's had a bad little run.
well,
Got it.
our guy. Who's,
I think the
but
chemistry.
Justin
I think the chemistry of the
longer
team
band.
is important.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
the chemistry. I mean,
Well-
I realize you're not on the playing together. I mean, you're playing together, but the chemistry of getting those guys' personalities is
and
huge.
Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth are the
They're
all-time
a
Ryder
great
Cup
team.
team. Great
They're a
team.
really good team.
And
There
they're
you go.
buddies. And they're buddies.
Yep.
And isn't that why? Who's Scotty Scheffler's best buddy? He's going to play with him. The Ryder
He'll
Cup.
play with Sam
Burns.
Sam Burns.
And Burns, there's Scotty Scheffler's questionable putting,
Yeah.
but Burns is a great putter, so they'll be a great team for us, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, who you picking? Who
You
you
know what I'm
picking?
picking? I'm picking the same thing that actually happened this last week in Spain when the
draw.
women did their
A
version of the
draw.
Ryder
I knew you were
Cup.
going to pick
I'm
a
picking
draw, a tie,
and the
and it
Americans
goes to
keep the cup.
and Europe kept the cup in Solheim, right?
They did in the
they,
Solheim because
women
they already
yeah.
had it. I'm picking a
A draw.
14 tie or what?
How many
15,
how many points does McIlroy need to score for Europe for them to win? I think he might have to go 5-0. You know, they play 5 matches max.
Yeah,
right?
5 matches max.
Yeah.
He'll play all 5. If he wins 4, they got a chance to do it.
Well, and 2 years ago they sat him out, remember? Because he
Yeah.
was really playing badly. But he is such a force of nature for Europe. I mean, that's why this event, and a lot of people don't watch golf regularly, but they should watch
They
this.
should watch
It is so compelling, and people are screaming, the crowds are going berserk. You know, in Rome, I don't know what they're going to do. They might throw
Lions.
pasta at them. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's
what
Oh,
they
there'll be lions,
Yeah,
Christians
yeah.
thrown out.
Lions and the
a lot of
Christians, yeah.
meatballs around for sure.
And let me one quick story, Ryder Cup story.
Okay.
And this I should have told 3 weeks ago when they picked the team, but we didn't think the Ryder Cup was relevant
Which it wasn't then.
then. When I was with PGA Tour Radio, and we're at a playoff event for the FedEx Cup, but it's the Ryder Cup selection day. That day is the Sunday. They're picking the team, but they're picking it from Europe. But there's half a dozen other players, the guys you were just talking about,
Yeah,
Holder,
yeah,
Garcia,
yeah.
Luke Donald, who is the captain this year for the Europeans. And I went on the Sunday, I went to the caddies in the
Okay.
morning of those guys and said, do you want to know? Because this is going to happen while you're on the golf course. Do you want to know or do you not want to know? Didn't ask the players, ask the caddies, because they can decide, they'll know if their player wants to know or not. And the caddy for Luke Donald says, all of them actually said, yeah, I want to know. They said, I'll get your attention. And
If
I'll
you're
signal you
selected,
at some
if you're
point.
selected.
If you're in, or if you're out, I'll
Yeah.
let you know, and you
Right,
can decide
sure,
not to tell him.
sure.
And Luke Donald shoots 30 on the front side, just birdies all over the place, moving up the leaderboard, right there in the hunt. And at the turn, I got his caddy, Johnny Longsocks, and I gave him the thumbs up. He goes and tells Luke, Luke's jumping up and down on the 10th tee. I knew that he told him, and then it worked, and everything
cool.
was good. Yeah, it was a great moment for me
Sure.
to just know that I
Right.
led to his joy. Then he proceeded to make bogeys and shoot himself out of the tournament. But that's how much the Ryder Cup means to these guys
Well-
that are playing. So remember that when you're watching.
Well, how about this year? Keegan Bradley, who campaigned
Yeah.
publicly to
Yeah.
get selected, he wasn't selected. The way he wasn't selected was on Netflix. Netflix is shooting, their thing, and Bradley says Netflix called him and said went at home. They called him and said, "Can you be at home in 15 minutes? We're going to be there to shoot you." Getting the phone call, so he got the phone call from Zach Johnson,
Yeah.
saying he wasn't selected, and it was on TV. Now nobody's seen it yet, but Keegan Bradley says it was so emotional for him.
I'm sure it hurt.
I mean, he broke down.
I'm sure it hurt a lot.
I mean, and he was shooting Netflix, was live, because they thought, and he thought, he was going to be selected, and he wasn't.
So that's how much it means to these
Yeah.
guys
Oh, you
who
represent the United
actually
States.
who get paid, but it all goes to charity. So they're doing this for the right reasons.
Sure.
And they're not doing it for clicks or NIL money. And let's enjoy it. It should be.
Look forward to it.
Yeah. Who you picking?
I'm picking Europe, but I don't know if I'm.
You're a
It's
contrarian.
going to start in two. Oh, I pick Europe every year because our guys chirp all the time. And Wyndham Clark, that won the Open this year, beat McIlroy. He says he wants to play McIlroy again. I want to see that. He can get his
Careful
ass kicked.
what you wish
Yeah, he's
for.
going to get
I'm
kicked.
picking the U.S.
You're picking the of course
For
USA.
USA.
but
USA.
Bob,
USA.
live, if you want to watch it live, 2 a.m. 2 a.m. You got to start watching it live.
I might.
I mean, that's fine. I don't know.
Call me.
I know you won't.
Call
be.
me.
I know you won't.
But the good thing
I
about
won't
golf is
answer.
it takes so long. that
Yeah,
you
the
don't have to be
matches-
on at
the
2 a.m.
matches
That's
take
If you get up
forever.
at 6,
Yeah.
you'll see the end of the
Sure.
first
Yeah.
session and then the beginning of the second.
Absolutely.
You won't miss it.
It's one of the great sporting events in the world.
Good stuff. All right.
They got to be careful not to eat too much. Seriously, you get over there and have all of a sudden this menu is amazing, and look what happens. You watch.
Really? Are
Some
you
are-
Italian? Are you Italian?
I am. You watch what happens to some
I
of those
like it.
guys.
I like it.
For sure.
They're ordering Chinese takeout.
Yeah, no, they're not.
We appreciate you guys listening to us, watching us on Under the Bus. Next week, I can't believe we'll have enough people to throw under a bus. But,
We will,
we'll
for
find
sure.
them.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see
Thank
you
you.
then.